For Vision of the Valley, I'm Tricia Perry. When it was built in 1926, the purpose of Stambaugh Auditorium was to be a ballroom and a concert hall for the community. And in 90 years, that purpose has not changed, but as General Manager Matt Pagac says, it is by no means a dated facility, is it, Matt?
It is not.
Tell me about how this facility has changed over the years to kind of adjust with the times, but yet still serve the community.
Some of the changes are just bringing in events that are relevant to what people want today. Some of the changes are technology changes. Most of those we've been very fortunate to keep them from being visible to the public when they come into the facility. But there's wireless internet access in this building. The doors are computer controlled by magnetic locks. The heating system, cooling system's computer controlled. The lighting system in the ballroom that we just renovated is all computer controlled. So there's a lot of technology here and a lot of up-to-date, I guess you could say, aspects to this facility.
And this building is on the historic register, right?
It is. It was added in 1984.
So it's important you don't change a lot of it as far as visually what it looks like.
That, for the most part, is the outside of the facility and the general structure of the facility, but we can do things like adding technology and updating paint and carpet and those sorts of things.
And do you find that the community really likes that and has picked up on this being a great venue for not just weddings, but all kinds of events and parties? And
they have. We see a wide variety of people, and we're always trying to grow that and make our market a bigger market for Stambaugh Auditorium.
So it was Henry Stambaugh that wanted this to be built, right, and put the money up for it?
How it actually worked is it was part of his will. It was when they settled his estate. Some of those funds were set aside to build a public auditorium. So it was something that was in his will.
And why the location?
There's some stories about that, and I'm not so sure how many of them are actually true or not. There's one that says that originally there was talk of this building being across the street in Wick Park. There are some that say that originally the building was talked about being downtown. So some of those are just, I mean, they happened 90 years ago, and some of the stories aren't all that solidified for how the building ended up here. But the park story makes a lot of sense without sending up across the street.
Well, and also people who were wealthy that would come to events here lived around the
Sure,
park.
they lived here on the north side.
So this was really convenient. They could walk.
Yes,
so
or
maybe
have their chauffeurs drive them, as that's how it actually worked.
Yes, so maybe that had something to do with why it was located near this beautiful park that they love so much. So, yeah, and now it's still a good location because it's close to downtown.
Yes, and close to Youngstown State, which we have a great relationship with.
Right.
And this side of town has really turned around in the last few years. A lot has happened here. It is really a great neighborhood. We have a great relationship with our neighbors, with Park Vista to our north, the hospital to our west, Youngstown State University, downtown, Wick Park. So it's really a great place, great neighborhood.
So before we move out of this gorgeous lobby, tell me a little bit about the lobby and the architecture in general of this building and why it was built in this style. It's very Greek, I think it looks at the columns.
Sure, it is the Greek style. The lobby, the marble floor, we actually found out is irreplaceable. We cannot get this marble anymore.
Why not?
The quarries don't have it anymore. There is none left anywhere. When we did the ballroom project last January, we built a new landing in the ballroom, and luckily one of our board members owned a building that had some of this marble in it. The building is going to be demolished, so we were able to salvage this marble out of that building and use it to build the new dais in the ballroom.
Yeah, it matches perfectly.
It does, and we were very lucky to have that happen.
Yeah, and then the ceilings, have they been restored anytime recently?
Some of the ceilings have been over the last 15 years or so. The biggest ceiling project was upstairs in the concert hall. Most of the ceilings are similar to this coffered ceiling style. It's all plaster mold. It's actually horsehair and lath with plaster. It's all hand painted. Upstairs in the concert hall, the gold that you see in the concert hall ceiling is all 22 karat gold.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And these are original fixtures?
The lighting fixtures are all original, the wall sconces and the chandeliers throughout both lobbies and the concert hall and the Chrisman hall. It's very fortunate that those items are still here. A lot of buildings of this age, a lot of the light fixtures and the metal work did not make it. It was either taken for war effort during World War II or just disappeared over time. We were very fortunate that these items all stayed here.
Yeah, I wonder how that happened. That someone stood at the door and protected it from happening.
In a board that really stood up for the building and made sure that these things stayed here.
So it's beautiful, but there must be some challenges.
Oh, for sure.
So give me some challenges to keeping a building like this in such pristine condition.
We lovingly joke that it is a money pit.
Of course it is.
Anything that's this old takes a lot to maintain it and to keep up with it. Heating the place is a giant cost. The heat goes right out the windows. I mean, it's a masonry building. They didn't insulate buildings like this in 1926. So it's literally limestone on the outside, steel structure, and just basically concrete block and plaster, and that's it. There's no insulation, no way to protect us from the cold or the heat in the summer. The building was not originally air conditioned in 1926, so that's been a challenge to make that happen.
I happen to know it wasn't air conditioned in 1995 either. When I used it for something important, it was in September when it was hot. Yeah, but now it is, so that's great. That's great, because that's a real selling point for especially weddings and that kind of thing. So, and your ballroom has been renovated too recently. Let's go in there and see what it looks like.
Sure.
Can we walk in?
Sure, no problem. So we started the project 3 years ago with fundraising and spent a little over 2 years working on actual construction on the space.
And right now, first impression, gorgeous, gorgeous, but there are lots of details that have been added that weren't here as I recall, because I've been to a lot of events in this space right here. For instance, I noticed the bars on the pillars and all of the outlets on the pillars. Those are new, right?
The outlets actually were there. The challenge before is you had to have certain lights on the room on for them to actually work, which that's not the case anymore, so they actually work all the time now. The black bars are actually part of the infrastructure support that we put into the building to support things like lighting for runway shows and stage shows down here, lighting the dance floor for weddings and that sort of thing.
And probably would help with decorations that people insist on sticking on those pillars.
Yes, we are trying to avoid people putting holes in things and that we're trying to stop that. So we put things in the room to aid in making those things happen without making any issues for us.
And it's also a little smaller because that wall used to not be there.
Sure, the closet wall wasn't there. We did that 2 years ago this summer. We built the closet wall. Those closets have actually chair storage for us, and on the other side of the wall there's now a service hallway, so guests don't have to see caterer and equipment coming and going during the event and that sort of thing.
So how many people can this hold?
We advertise it at 550 for a seated dinner event. We can hold a little bit more than that, but capacity also includes, working staff, serve staff, that sort of thing. Sure. So those need to be factored in when we're looking at capacities for the room. We can do 1,000 in here at either a standing room or a theater setup.
Right, and this is the floor. Did the floor change? Was it a different dimension?
It did. Actually, originally in 1926, this was a concrete floor in this room. This was a trade show hall originally.
Oh my gosh.
In 1926, you didn't have places like Covelli Center. So this is where everything happened in public buildings like this.
And they had ballrooms like the Idora Ballroom where people danced, and so maybe not so much here.
Exactly. And in the 40s, they added a hardwood floor in this space to compete with the Idora Park Ballroom. So that hardwood floor is what was here up until 2 summers ago. We removed that floor. It was beyond repair. Had warped really bad over the years. It wasn't all put in at one time, it was put in sections. Those sections were pulling apart and we were having a really rough time making it so it was safe. We would have ladies where their heels would get caught in the cracks and that sort of thing. So that went away and we put this floor in and then the carpeting, which we just did. Mm-hmm.
And then also that stage area used to look slightly different. It looks like it's more of a...
It looks like a stage now. Right. Before it was pretty much a box.
Yeah, it just looks like a thing sticking out of the wall.
Sure, and it's a real stage now. It's actually a hardwood maple floor. It's real maple, and it really serves the purpose of a stage. And it sounds a lot better. The other stage was very hollow when you walked on it. This is solid. and it really architecturally fits the building a lot better.
And another thing people might not notice just glancing at the ballroom is the places where the screens can be.
Sure, we have 3 screens in here now and all the infrastructure support to support those. So the cabling is built into the room so you don't have to see it. We can hang projectors from the ceiling so those aren't in the way anymore, so we can do all those sorts of things that we were not able to do before.
So it's very much more modern than it's state of the art.
Sure it is. And there's support for additional lighting in here, sound system support and all that sort of thing. It's all in here and you can't see it, and that's what we wanted.
Right. I know we're going to talk to Kelly about other parts of the building as well, but what do you think this building meant to the community then as compared to now, 90 years ago as compared to now?
I think it's a lot of the same. Something to be proud of. It's a landmark building in Youngstown. There's people that grew up here can tell you stories of coming here when they were a kid to see the symphony when the symphony used to be here, or coming here to see stage shows with school, that sort of thing. Lots of people will tell you they graduated out of this building. Ursula and Mooney, all the Youngstown City schools, Cheney, East, Rayan, and all the others. There's quite a few there. Liberty High School graduates from here. Hubbard graduates from here. So there's a lot of people that have that connection to here. There's a lot of people that their introduction to the arts are from this building. Their first concert was in this building, and we still have a lot of that today, and it happened then. It's a center of cultural pride for Youngstown, and we're still that today. It was then too. The organ upstairs was a really big community pride piece in 1926, and we've seen the same thing now with restoring it a few years ago and seeing that same kind of pride and interest, not just from Youngstown, but from Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Columbus, that sort of thing too.
It is. It's a great building, and it is. Even though we have other great venues in town, it is very unique in the way it looks and the way it's built and what it has to offer here. So.
It is. It is.
Yeah. So what's it like working in a space like this?
It's really neat to be in a building that's been around for almost 90 years, that has so much history.
Do you ever get tired of how gorgeous it is, or do you just not notice it after a while?
No, you never get tired of how beautiful this place is.
It is really. Just looking here, wedding pictures, I've seen lots of friends have their wedding pictures across that banister in front of these windows. It's a picture spot everywhere you go. It's just perfectly beautiful.
Photographers love it here.
Yeah.
And you can see why. It's a lot of photography sessions, more than just weddings, senior pictures, family photos. It's an iconic building, and that does not get old, ever.
No, I'm sure not. So as we continue up, we're going to the other important part of this building, that is the concert hall, performance hall, which has been recently renovated as well, correct?
It's been a few years. Yeah, it's been a few years. A lot of people will remember when it was red. Yes. Red chairs, red carpet, red curtains.
And now it's blue velvet everywhere.
It is. It's a little easier on the eyes than, I've seen pictures of the red, so it's more soothing.
Oh yes. Very regal looking.
It
Very
is.
beautiful.
It is. We hear a lot of the artists that come in will make comments like, I can't believe this is in Youngstown. Mm-hmm. I can't believe we're playing here. This is so beautiful. It's pretty breathtaking when you walk in.
It is. It is. Is this the gold ceiling he was talking about?
It
Matt was
is.
saying is real gold.
It is. It's been restored, and it's really something that you have to sort of see in person,
right,
to appreciate. But it is gorgeous.
And of course, this is where the opera performs every fall in November.
Yes.
And it's the perfect spot. There are boxes, little box seats up there, and it looks really nice.
Those are actually, when we have people call for tickets, I actually recommend the balcony seats here on the sides, because you have this perfect view. They're angled a little bit, but you can see right down to the stage. we don't have a bad seat in the house, but in my opinion, those are our best seats.
I do like them. I've been up there. Very nice. And then you have this lovely stage, which at one point you couldn't see all of that, right? Wasn't it covered up, those vents up there? I'm trying to remember what that looked like before. It did not look like this when I was a kid.
Well, it's actually plaster casting. It's made to look like wood, but they are plaster, and that's the organ chambers on either side. So all of the pipes and everything that go with the E.M. Skinner pipe organ are housed on either side of the stage.
Tell me a little bit about the history of that, because that was a big deal recently.
It was completely taken apart and sent off to Connecticut to be completely restored. They dismantled everything, completed their restoration, and then brought it back and put it together. There was years of undetected water damage in the pipes.
So is this the one that's been here all this time?
Yes, just restored.
Okay. And then, was it always sitting right here, or does it go somewhere?
It moves.
Okay, I thought
it
so.
does move. So when we have larger concerts, it sits off to the side. But we have an organist. Typically twice a season, we have an organist come in. We do silent films with the live organ accompaniment. It's a large part of the arts and education that we try to continue.
Yeah, that is a nice thing that can only really happen here when it comes to that. Yeah,
yeah, it's a very well-known instrument, not just in this area. In the organ community, it's a very respected instrument.
So many famous people on this stage, right?
Yes.
Can you name a few? Recently, maybe? What's the most recent?
Recently, we just had Toby Mac, who's a Christian artist that was sold out. Fifth Harmony, which is a group of 5 females. They were presented by MTV. We had a very full house for that as well. Back before I started, unfortunately, Bruce Springsteen was here. I wish I had seen that one. Jerry Seinfeld has performed. We've had Brian Regan recently. R5, they're very big in the Disney Channel genre. They were here. So lots of very famous names.
Now, are those part of the Monday musical series, or some of them part of that? Because tell me about how that was really an original part of this building.
It was. Unfortunately, they're no longer in existence here in Stambaugh, but they actually presented the first show here. Will Rogers, the day after the dedication, performed here as the first part of Monday Musical, and then they continued just until this year, and now they've become a foundation to help to continue to support the arts in the area, which is super important. And it's just, unfortunately, they're not going to present shows any longer.
Well, that's a nice way to change their mission and still do somewhat the same thing.
Yes, and we still honor them in one of the hallways. There are hundreds of photographs of the amazing artists that they've brought here in the past.
Well, let's go out there and look. Oh, so here are all the pictures of famous people that I glance at some of them and I say, I think I know who that is. Like, I know that's Marvin Hamlish, I can tell. But like,
very distinguished.
Yes, and Louise Mandrell, I remember the Mandrell sisters when I was a kid, they had a show. But sometimes you look at someone and go, I almost know who that is. But these are all famous people back in the day. Shirley Jones, of course.
Yeah. It's amazing to think that they've been here.
I know. And then these are even older. I'm not sure I would know any of them. Oh, of course, Liberace, distinct, and some famous ballerina, I'm sure.
Yes, and Regis Philbin, his photo is here as well. So it's amazing to think back of all of the music history that has taken place here.
Really, I know, and it was Youngstown was always a great venue to play anyway. Everybody wanted to stop here. If they were in Cleveland or Pittsburgh, for sure they stopped here. So it's nice that it's still doing that, still attracting big acts.
It's our goal to continue that, to make sure that people think of Stambaugh Auditorium as the place that they want to perform.
Do you, I mean, is it an easy booking? Do people call all the time, or how does that work?
It's complicated. I mean, you have to have a tour coming in with our date available, their date available. There's a lot of things that have to fall into place in order for it to work, but I mean, we've had sold out shows with Florida Georgia Line and, like I mentioned, Toby Mac, and when this place is just filled with people, it really changes and comes to life. And it's amazing to see when there's over 2,000 people, you know, waiting outside the doors and in the lobbies, and to see the eyes pop open and those mouths drop when they see this place. That's my favorite. Yeah. And
usually the musical acts are probably during the week, because you'll have a lot of weddings on the weekends that you can't really book at the same time, right?
It depends on how far in advance we can get them booked. There are weekends where we've done, you know, like a Saturday night if we have enough notice. We also do a lot of fundraisers downstairs in the ballroom. Those take place on Friday and Saturday nights. So we do concerts a lot, like Thursday nights, Sunday nights, but we will do a weekend. Yeah.
And then you have one more room. It's a smaller room for lovely events. Yes. You have lots of rooms, but one more room that I know about.
Yeah, the Anne Kilcawley Chrisman Memorial Hall is on the third floor, which a lot of people don't even realize that we have, and it's as gorgeous as the other spaces in the building.
So we're going to go up there next. So this is one of my favorite rooms. It's smaller though, so it can't be used for huge parties. What kinds of things is it used for? Not so much lectures, or still lectures like it says on the door?
Small ones. This is the Anne Chrisman Memorial Hall, and it's used for smaller recitals. It's also used for a lot of wedding ceremonies. We can seat about 200 people. Theater with the bride coming right down the hallway in the middle. We can also do smaller receptions. About 110 people can fit comfortably seated at tables. So smaller dinner parties as well, but it's a gorgeous, it has a very cathedral feel,
right,
with the windows and the archways and the ceiling and the fixtures. I mean, everything is just, right, it's just beautiful.
So before it was called the Chrisman Room, and you know, thank you to all of those wonderful people who give to projects like this, and then exactly, you know that by their name being on them. It was called the Marble Room, and I don't see a whole lot of marble except for maybe the benches and around the bottom of the pillars.
Yeah, but that's just the nickname that it sort of received over the years. But
and it's stuck until
the naming rights went to the Chrisman Hall. Yes.
So it will start to be called the Tyler Ballroom, because Jean Tyler is the one who gave money to that project, right?
Her name is actually up above the 3 double doors before you enter the ballroom. So yeah, it's something that we're starting to refer to it as the Tyler Grand Ballroom.
Right,
yes. And
and it's so important because those people, you know, have the means to give to these things so that they will last longer than we will all last.
Yeah, it's the generosity in the community is wonderful. I mean, we've been through the capital campaign to renovate the ballroom, and there's also, you know, we have underwriting for certain programming. We had it for the silent film in the fall. It's the generosity in the valley that's really part of what keeps us going.
It is. It's pretty amazing. Now, can you tell us any secrets about this place that you found since you've been working here? Things that wouldn't be too much of a secret to let out.
From what I understand, when this room was restored, the ceiling was almost black. So they were on, you know, tall stands to clean it and restore it to what you see today. It's very difficult to imagine when you're in here. The floor is original, and it has a great view of downtown when you look out the windows.
And YSU.
You can see YSU, the track and the soccer fields. You can see more of downtown now than you could several years ago, since they've started to clean up some of the areas.
Right, it's beautiful. It's like the first thing on the north side.
It is, and people, they consider us downtown, but technically we're not downtown, we're the north side.
Yeah. And then this leads right to the balcony, so it would be great to have a private party in there and then just come out and watch the show, or watch the show and go back in.
And that does happen. We also use it as an extra concession bar area during events, so people on this level don't have to go all the way down to the concert hall. They can come in and grab a refreshment during whatever show they're here for.
Right. How many seats again?
2,553.
Wow. What's through here? This small door looks like it's going to go to a closet, but
It actually goes to an organ chamber.
which is much larger than we'd ever imagined. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
This is one of 2 organ chambers. There's one on the other side of the stage from here. The other one isn't quite as impressive to walk into because it's all behind louvers, so it's not open like this. But the organ contains just shy of 4,000 pipes, so half of them are in this little space, and the other half are in a space similar on the other side.
And this has been here since it was built?
This was put in 1926. We restored the organ starting in 2009, finished it in 2011. During that restoration, they actually took all of this out of the building, put it in trucks, drove it to New Haven, Connecticut, where it was rebuilt, and then brought back here and reinstalled in the building. It's a true restoration back to what it was in 1926. We didn't add any digital memory to the organ or anything like that. It still works the way it did in 1926.
Why was it important to keep it that way?
Just the historical value of that organ. Even organs of this age that still exist in other facilities have been modernized with digital memory and MIDI effects and all that sort of thing. And we really wanted to keep it true to what Stambaugh Auditorium was and what this instrument was. This instrument was made by the E.M. Skinner Organ Company, which is kind of known as the Rolls-Royce of organs of the time in 1926. And there's not very many of these instruments left in the country. Actually, the largest E.M. Skinner organ ever built is in Pagac Auditorium in Cleveland. It's not playable, it's in very, very bad shape. But luckily this one was able to be restored. And there was only one section of pipes that was not still here that we had to replace. Everything else was still here.
And there are people around that know how to play this kind of thing?
There's actually a very active organ guild in Youngstown. I'm not sure how many members they have, but quite a few. They come here once a year for a meeting. A lot of their organists come here and do some of their weekly rehearsal time here on this instrument. We also bring in national organists from all over the country. We have one actually this coming weekend, David Higgs. We have one on May 1st. Peter Richard Conti, who's from Philadelphia, who's been here a number of times. And there's been just the organ community has been very responsive to this instrument and very happy to see what we've done with it.
Okay, good. So then what goes on up there? Does this lead to some other place?
Yes, there's stairs that lead upstairs to what is originally on the blueprints as the orchestra rehearsal room. I would love to see somebody get a string bass up these steps. It's now our hoist room where all the motors for the rigging for the stage are. And then that leads to the catwalks, which are above the concert hall ceiling.
And not many people get to see that, but you might let us see a little bit.
Sure,
so
we can do some of the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Okay, that's great. So here we are in this room that possibly was meant to be some kind of rehearsal hall, but now it handles all this. This is all the machinery for the stage?
Yes, this is all the motors that run the current rigging system that's on the stage. We put this in about 5 years ago. Up until that point, it was manual hand cranks.
So this makes life easier for all those stage crews,
It does.
right?
It does. A lot easier. It makes it so the pipes can come down to the ground to hang stuff and to move lighting, and then you can take them back up, and this does all the work.
Very nice.
So this is some of that technology in the building. This is all, again, computer controlled.
So before this was here, though, was it just empty? Or
This was just an empty room. It was used for storage. I remember when I first came here, the walls were black, and it was just full of junk, old lighting equipment that wasn't used anymore and that sort of thing. So we cleaned it all out and cleaned the room up and then had this rigging installed.
And then this goes up even further?
It goes
we
up
can
to
go higher than
goes
that?
up to the catwalks,
okay,
yes.
Let's go, but you have to lead the way because I'm not going up
No
there
problem.
first. Okay, so explain to me where we are now.
We're actually in, I guess, what you would call the attic of Stambaugh Auditorium. We're above the concert hall ceiling. This is as high of a point you can get in the building with still being inside. So this is the structure that basically holds the roof up and all the lighting
Some
equipment.
lighting and some other things. What is the reason anybody has to come up here during a show?
Before shows, they come up here to focus lights to adjust these lighting fixtures. There's hand cranks up here that lower the concert hall chandeliers to the ground. So that actually was done this morning here. We changed light bulbs in the chandeliers this morning.
Would like to see that.
So that's a 3-person project. A couple guys up here to crank them down to the floor and somebody downstairs to change the light bulbs. And just, you know, keeping an eye on the structure and on the building and that sort of thing from up
This
here.
probably looks much the way it did in 1926 when it was built.
Yes, yes, this is pretty much unchanged outside of some additional lighting equipment that's been added and a couple catwalks that have been added over the years. But you know, you get to see the plaster ceiling and it's horsehair that's holding that all together. That's the way they did things in 1926. So it's very impressive.
For more information about Stambaugh Auditorium as a venue, you can always call them the old-fashioned way at 747-5175. But in the spirit of staying current with technology, Stambaugh Auditorium also has a website and a Facebook page. For Vision of the Valley, I'm Tricia Perry.